if you're an executive, you've been a high achiever your whole life and your identity is based around being the best, right? You typically probably studied at the best school, right? You're probably the best in your school. You might have played elite level football when you were younger. You've gone into a big company and you've moved up very fast. You've done the hours, you've done the time, you've done all the pain that's gone, you've had to do to get to that. And you're now at a point where you're very financially successful. You've got the things that you want. You've got the big house in the suburbs, you know, the nice car on the drive. But when you look at yourself in the mirror, there's this gap where you say, well, on the outside, I'm a winner. I've got all of these things. I've got the success. I've got the finances, but my body and my health doesn't match that.
Welcome to the Well to Lead podcast, where we explore the dynamic relationship between personal wellness and effective leadership. Hey, good morning, Well to Lead family. This is your host, Bobby Davis here. Hey, listen, folks, I appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. Join me as we welcome to our studio today, Mr. Oliver Anwar. Oliver is a health optimization coach for high-performing leaders at companies like Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Shopify, McKinsey, and Accenture. He helps executives reclaim their dominance, energy, and legacy by fixing the root causes of decline, hormonal imbalance, fatigue, and performance gap between what they demand from their teams and what they're willing to do for themselves. So join me, folks, as we welcome to our studio audience this morning, Oliver. Oliver, how you doing this morning, sir?
Bobby, I'm doing great, thank you. It's good to meet and excited to be on the show today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, listen, Oliver, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to jump on this morning. And what part of the country are you joining us from today?
So I'm in a different part of the country completely. I'm actually in a different country. So right now I'm actually in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, which is pretty cool. So yeah, on the other side of the world right now. Yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool. So what's it like where you're at today? I mean, weather-wise.
It's very warm today, very sunny. It's been great outside, perfect beach weather. So I can't complain.
Oh, man. I wish I was where you was at.
How is it with you?
It's cold. It's been cold. It's been cold where we're at here in the Carolinas. So, yeah, we've been having some pretty winter-like weather here, which is kind of unusual for us in this part of the country. So, but no, man, I've been looking forward to having you to come on the show. You have a lot. I feel like it's going to add value to our audience today in terms of some of the work that you're doing in that wellness and health space. So before we get started, Oliver, if you could take a moment perhaps and tell our audience a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm Oliver Anwar. I'm an executive health coach to some of the top leaders in the world. As you mentioned, we've worked with people at places like Amazon, McKinsey, Meta, Shopify, Microsoft, and really our focus is helping executives reach peak health alongside the craziness that happens when they're running a company, they're running a business, and they're in a senior leadership role. And what you typically find and what we see is people will sacrifice their health and sacrifice everything for their career. And what's happening now as we start to get into the science, the longevity of what's happening in the health industry is that leaders are seeing the direct impact of poor health, low energy levels on their leadership, on their performance, on their focus, and how they show up each day as well. Because I always say, you know, as a executive or entrepreneur, you are an athlete, right? You're not an athlete on the sports field. You're an athlete in business. And, you know, there's, you know, off season when it comes to playing sports, you play football, but in the business world, there is no off season. It's 24/7. It's every day. And you need to prioritize your health if you want to be at your peak. And that's really the message that we send to people. It's saying that you are the foundation to the success you're going to have in your career and continue to have in your career as well.
Wow. No, that's good stuff, man. So can you tell us what a optimization coach is essentially, and how long have you been doing this, Oliver?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing this for almost a decade now, so 9 years. And a little bit of a backstory, I was at university in London. I was a broke student and I decided that I wanted to set up a fitness website to help people get fit. On the first night of launching this website, I shared it with all my friends on Facebook. Someone paid me for a fitness package 10 years ago. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So I was like, great, I'm going to continue doing this. So I started making some money on the side. I went into the corporate world in central London, was working for a big telecoms company called Verizon, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. And from there, basically, I continued to grow my business alongside working corporate. COVID hit, and then that was a big kind of shift in a lot of people's thinking in regards to health specifically, but also that online and remote working could work really well. So my business started to grow from that point, and then over the past 5 or 6 years, we've really specialized and helped leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs from all over the world, specifically and mainly in the US, optimize what they're doing. And to answer your second question, what is an optimization coach? Well, it's a health coach with a little bit more detail than maybe your standard online fitness trainer. So the things that we focus on are your internal metrics. So first thing we do is blood work. We look at your blood panels, your internal health, and really your biology. And then we build a health plan that's sustainable around that. So it's not generic. It's very personalized and very specific. As I'm sure you know, we all have a different biology. We all have a different genetic makeup. We all have different challenges, right? So if somebody has a fitness plan and they say, hey, do this, that could be different for a different person. They need that personalization and specificity. So we work across 5 key pillars. We've got the health testing side of things, which is internal health, blood work, body composition testing through DEXA scans, something I'm happy to elaborate on for the listeners if they don't know what they are. The second pillar is obviously around flexible nutrition, precision training, accelerating our recovery and optimized lifestyle. And through these 5 pillars, we build a holistic plan with the right accountability in place that then allows leaders to optimize their health, reduce body fat, improve their health markers, and actually have the energy and tenacity to lead, to be at their best every single day. So that's a little bit around me and what an executive coach is.
No, got it. I appreciate you taking time to share that. So, you kind of stumbled. It sounds like you kind of stumbled into this. Or was health always something that was really important to you? And if so, maybe give us a little bit more detail about that.
Yeah. So when I was 7 years old, a little kid at Christmas, my granddad actually died of a heart attack on Christmas Day. And this was kind of a big thing because he didn't look after himself as well as he should have. And he ended up passing away, which was very sad, but it also changed the trajectory of a lot of my family's lives. So my great grandma had to move in with us. My grandma had dementia. There was a lot of things that happened in our family from this shift. And from a young age, I realized actually health is so important because I didn't really get to spend the time that I wanted to with my granddad because he wasn't there. And I think a lot of guys listening to this, in their 40s, 50s and 60s can probably relate, right? You want to be around for your kids and your grandkids. And that was a big driver for me when I was younger. The second thing was I was actually a pretty good soccer player when I was younger. So I was playing elite level soccer in the UK. And so I was traveling around the country playing against a lot of the big teams. Unfortunately, I didn't make it as a professional, but I was very much used to this competitive environment, this kind of showing up, 3 to 4 times a week to train, playing matches on the weekend, taking care of nutrition, and really being part of that sort of healthy lifestyle as a young kid. So it kind of stuck with me. I loved it. And then from there, I decided to, get my qualifications, study. And I'm now doing this full time. So yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool stuff. So as far as the soccer is concerned, how long did you do that again? How long were you into soccer?
Yeah, so I was into soccer probably my whole childhood. So from the time I could kick a ball around, sort of 5, 6, 7, all the way up until I was 16. So at least 10, maybe sometimes 15 years up until I was 20, I was still playing. So yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, my grandson loves soccer.
Nice.
That's the reason why I was asking. Yeah. He's a huge soccer guy. So I there's a lot of things that I want us to hopefully be able to unpack today, but I want to ask you something about maybe more details on how you got into this. You kind of gave us an overview, but I wanted to find out from you. You have something perhaps that you want to share regarding the way you started, as far as you go from being broke and filling vending machines,
Yeah.
to coaching CTOs and VPs. What was the thing that happened, I guess, from a mindset standpoint that was able to help you to shift, seeing how this is kind of where you kind of came from when you started this?
Yeah, I think a big mindset shift was, and I think that this is something I've always had, which is lucky, is always this internal self-belief. And I think this comes from a lot of successful people that I see. There was a lot of belief in me to say, hey, I want to do this, and I'm going to really bend reality and bend the world until I actually get to where I want to get to. So it came from a lot of studying, a lot of perseverance. I basically quit my corporate job. And when I did that, I kind of went broke after that because my business wasn't making much money. I then went in to go and fill in vending machines on the side to actually build some income. And that was before 2020. And then 2020 hit and I'd started to build some traction online. I started to get some clients. I was already qualified by this point, but I'd not really built the marketing side of things out. But that started to grow from 2020. And then from there, I was able to kind of do this full time. And it kind of just slowly compounded day by day, week by week, to actually building us to where we are now. So yeah.
Wow, that's cool, man. So the corporate job that you had, was that something that I mean that you enjoyed doing that, or that you just kind of knew that at some point you would probably transition from that into something else?
Yeah, exactly. So I finished university, and at that time, my business wasn't making enough money for it to go full time. So my parents are very eager for me to get a grad job outside of university. So I was pretty good at interviews. So I got an interview straight away, and I got a job straight after university at Verizon. And I was there for 6 months, and that was a pretty tough 6 months because I was like waking up at like 6 a.m. I was taking the tube in central London to the office, working from, 8 until 6. I'd get the tube home again. I'd go to the gym, and then I'd work on my business until 1 a.m. And I would continue to do this each day. So it was
Yeah.
it was a grind, man. It was a complete grind. And after 6 months, I kind of naively quit the corporate job because I said I'm done with this. I want to go all in on my business. And it went well for a few months, but then I realized like I actually need to make some more cash because I was like, I'm broke now.
Yeah.
The business isn't quite where I need it to be yet. But I figured it out. I did the vending machines for again another 6 months, which was again a 4 a.m. start. Go and pick up the van, drive around all of these sites, hack these chocolate bars into vending machines, which was quite ironic as I was a health guy, but I had to do what I had to do to make some money, right? So I did that, and yeah, it was sort of 2020 hit. That was when I was able to take this full time, which was a big shift.
No, that's good, man. I talk to a lot of folks, Oliver, and it seems like 2020, as bad as that time was for a lot of people, right? For us all, I mean, the things that we were kind of dealing with. But it seems like there were a lot of great businesses that was birthed during that period. I mean, I've had additional guests to come on, and that 2020 seems to be like a pivotal moment or time where we were dealing with such pain and horrific situations, but yet there was still a lot of great things that was birthed out of that period. And perhaps because we were, confined to our homes and so forth. But it's interesting how you started. And I always like to find out from my guests kind of the backstory, how they started, because I know that there are some things that you picked up back then that perhaps you have been able to use in the success that you're having right now. Because most of the time when you start hard, man, there's some lessons in there that you can learn some stuff, kind of help you persevere when you get going. You know what I'm saying? Was there any specific thing that you look back on and say, hey, man, I'm kind of glad I went through that. Now I'm coaching these billionaires and so forth, right? That set these high performers. But I'm glad I went through that because now it helped prepare me to be able to really do an awesome job with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was just for me, the biggest thing was like the perseverance during the times and like the internal confidence to continue going when things aren't going your way. And I think that, confidence is a big thing that people talk about. And, confidence isn't shouting from the rooftops when you achieve something or, the flashy cars or all those things that happen when things are good, right? The confidence comes from when you're down bad. Things are not going your way, the chips are down. How are you going to respond to that? And this can be in any facet of life. This can be in business. This can be within your relationship. It can be with your health. Are you going to take the path of least resistance and let life happen to you and, make excuses, play the victim? Or are you going to take that personal ownership and say, hey, whatever's happened, there are things that are in my control. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to believe. And I feel with that mindset, like you can get to wherever you want to be in life. So for me, that was a big shift, was knowing that however bad it was, I knew it was going to be better. And I was going to persevere.
No, that's a great point. That no matter how bad it is at the moment, that you knew that it was going to get better. And I wanted to make sure I emphasize that to our audience because sometimes, and maybe perhaps folks that may be listening might be in that stage where things are just kind of like feel like they're falling apart, right? And it's tough. But like you said, it's just kind of knowing and having that belief system to know that it's going to get better. So I'm glad that you shared that. But I wanted us to segue into really more of what we want to talk about today, which is, the executive health gap. I mean, you work with high level, high performing, executives that are all about optimizing the systems, processes, all of the things that make them successful in business. But they seem to neglect the one thing that's most important, which is optimizing or finding ways to optimize themselves. So I want us to maybe kind of start talking more about the actual work that you're doing with them as it pertains to this executive health gap. Tell us about the gap first and let us kind of maybe get some more insight into that piece.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So the executive health gap is, I call it like the identity gap, right? So, on one side, if you're an executive, you've been a high achiever your whole life and your identity is based around being the best, right? You typically probably studied at the best school, right? You're probably the best in your school. You might have played elite level football when you were younger. You've gone into a big company and you've moved up very fast. You've done the hours, you've done the time, you've done all the pain that's gone, you've had to do to get to that. And you're now at a point where you're very financially successful. You've got the things that you want. You've got the big house in the suburbs, the nice car on the drive. But when you look at yourself in the mirror, there's this gap where you say, well, on the outside, I'm a winner. I've got all of these things. I've got the success. I've got the finances, but my body and my health doesn't match that. Right. Small things like not being able to go up the stairs without getting out of breath, or, going to play a round of golf with your buddies and just not feeling like your swing's as good, or, coming home and just feeling irritable with your family and your kids. And, even showing up at business meetings with, high stakes, high level people and feeling a bit self-conscious on the way that you look because you're like, well, I'm successful, but I've got this big belly. My suits don't fit me.
Right.
I don't feel great. So it's like, there's this gap in identity, which causes this internal conflict inside because, you're torn by it because you're like, well, I should be a winner, but why is my health not at the point where it needs to be? And, once we actually fix this and get it to the point where it is, optimized, I've got the energy, I've got the focus, I look good, I feel good, there's this level of alignment that happens. And that level of alignment really drives people forward to actually continue to get more success. So that is really what the gap is. And it's about like matching the habits and the person that you are in your health with everything else that you do. So that's how I would explain it.
Got it. No, that's a great overview of that. How is it that high performing individuals who are used to carrying an enormous amount of stress, meeting deadlines and working long hours, where they have this discipline to do that, but somehow their health is neglected because of what? Why is it that we don't pay attention to that until there's a crisis? I guess that's the point.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the big things is like a lot of the mainstream health advice that's out there is not always tailored to executives. And it's also very extreme in the way that people approach things, right? So how many times have you heard someone say, oh, I've been on a diet, I lost 10 pounds, but I gained it all back. Or they say, hey, I did this, CrossFit, or I did this class and I did this transformation. It was great for 90 days, but then I went back to square one again and I'm back gaining weight because travel came up, work came up. There was a lot of external stresses that happened. So a lot of people are following mainstream advice that doesn't have sustainability and longevity. And the way that we focus our program is about really building this around being adaptable, flexible in your schedule. Because if it's not going to be sustainable, and yes, it might take you a little bit longer to get there, you might not drop 30 pounds in 6 weeks, right? Which everybody wants to do. They want to get as lean as possible. It's about taking a slower approach, a more sustainable approach, and actually longer term building the habits because that's what lasts. I think with a lot of executives is they've tried a lot of this stuff so much. They've tried all the fad diets. They've tried the 75 hard. They've tried doing keto. They've tried all of this stuff and it's not stuck. And then they think, well, screw it. I'm stressed. I've got a lot of other things on my plate. I'm just going to park this for a little bit. And it's not until they go to the doctor and they see that their cholesterol's high, their blood pressure's high, or something that I call it the wake up call. There's a wake up call that happens that then drives us to want to change. And I think for a lot of the time, right, as high performers, we think we're invincible, right? We think we can take on the world, we think we can do this, and it's not until we get this scare for some reason, whether it's a family member or a doctor or someone saying, hey man, you need to sort this out, before they actually change. And I think that that's a big reason to it.
No, that's good, man. That's good stuff. Do you find that more men suffer from this issue than women? Because I'm sure you probably work with, or at least I'm assuming you work with women executives also, where men just have a tendency to a lot of times feel like they're Superman or have this image that says, oh, I'm just going to muscle my way through it.
Hmm.
I'll work through the pain, right? And we kind of we ignore the signs, we don't go to the doctor, things like that. Do you see that there's a difference, I guess, in terms of how we manage our health between male and female?
It's a great question. From the work we've done, so we work with male and female clients. The male and female executives specifically, they kind of have the same challenges. It's the same challenge of, hey, look, I'm super stressed. I've got so much on. I don't have a system in place. I'm not feeling great. I need to fix this. Now, the reasons as to why they want to fix are sometimes different. You know, a male executive might have different reasons as why they want to optimize versus a female, but actually they're coming to us with like, you know, the same problems, right? The same challenges, the same issues. So across the board, it's quite consistent. There are some variances with females. Of course, the female body is different to the male body in regards to menstrual cycle, weight fluctuations, things like that can happen. But on the most part, it's actually
Right.
pretty consistent.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I didn't know if there was and I guess I was kind of thinking more about a mindset difference. I know that the challenges are probably similar, but do
Mm.
you find that they're more receptive to, to trying to take care of their health before crises come up, or is it just basically balanced across for both?
I would say it's balanced across for both. Yeah, people that we find don't tend to want to tackle it until it gets really bad. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, yeah. All right. So when it comes to the things that you guys do as far as helping them to optimize is I know you guys have you have a laid out detailed process that you take these executives through. The programs that you put them on, how long are the programs, and are they just kind of custom made to that individual? There's no specific term or time frame.
Yeah.
Maybe tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we do 6 and 12-month programs. So we don't do
Okay.
kind of short-term programs. The reason being is we focus on long-term changes. A lot of it is down to the internal blood work as well. So, you know, with like a 6 or 12 month, we can do like 2 or 3 different tests, you know, like retests as well of blood work to actually see the internal changes there as well. So yeah, we do 6 to 12 months. We have some clients that have stayed with us for years, but that's what our starting programs are at.
Right. I got you. I got you. Now, as far as because you start with the blood work, and I want us to maybe spend some time here because I mean this is coming into a more detailed aspect where you're looking at the blood work and then developing a plan around what you come back what the results are as far as the blood work is concerned. Why is that so important in terms of helping the executives get the right type of plan?
Yeah, the big reason as to why blood work is important, like I alluded to earlier, it's really about everybody has a different biological makeup and also people have different challenges. So for example, if an executive is struggling with low energy, for example, really, really low energy, if he keeps trying to work out, he keeps trying to do maybe extreme diets, his hormonal imbalance might still be there. So it doesn't matter how he trains or what he does, right? It's a case of, okay, your inflammation is really high, your testosterone is super low. Let's actually address the reason as to why. You know, solving a lot of these problems does come down to being leaner, reducing body fat, having more muscle, sleeping better, all of those foundations. But again, there's a lot of specific like supplementation that could go into it and a lot of specific recovery methods that will actually help with improving specific health markers as well. So that's why we look at it like that, because if, you know, let's say a founder, right, that's been pushing their business really high for years and years and years, has triglycerides through the roof, has really low testosterone, has really high levels of inflammation, you know, we're not going to put them on a 6-day-a-week plan to go
Right.
to the gym and kill themselves, right? Because they actually need a lot of
Right.
recovery. They need to reset the nervous system. They need to optimize that internal health to ensure that they've got a good baseline. So once they're at a good baseline, you can then actually start to program them something a little bit more advanced, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Before we get to maybe you giving us a more, detailed overview of the diagnostic process in general, because we know that obtaining the blood work is part of the process. What are some of the age ranges that you're dealing with as far as these executives are concerned? Just curious.
Yeah, we work with people from 40 to 65 to sometimes 70, our oldest client. So yeah, 40 to 65.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. All right. Walk us through the diagnostic process. I mean, you talked about gathering the blood work. So when you actually go in, well, let me back up. When you actually have a client that reaches out to you to say, "Hey, I need help,"
Mhm.
walk us through the process of what you guys do from that point on.
Yeah. So when a client reaches out, the first thing we do is a discovery call. And this discovery call is really about doing a big diagnostic and basically looking at the areas of what they're struggling with, right? Really seeing what the problem is within their health as to why they've not been able to achieve what they want to achieve yet. So a lot of this is like behavioral stuff, but also it comes down to like the biology of where they're at right now. Once we've done that, we then book them in for their blood work. So we start off by, testing over 100 different health markers. So it's very comprehensive. It's going to do everything from cardiovascular health, metabolic health, hormonal health, nutritional deficiencies. So we can kind of get a full understanding of where they're at. We'll also do something called a DEXA scan. Now, a DEXA scan, for people listening, is the most accurate way to measure body fat and muscle mass. This way we can actually see, okay, what's the fat distribution in the body? What's the bone density? But more importantly, like, what does the visceral fat look like in your body? Now, for the listeners, there are two types of fat. There's a subcutaneous fat, which is kind of like the fat on the skin, but then you've got the internal fat around your organs, which is far more dangerous, and that's the visceral fat. So through this, we can actually see how much visceral fat they're carrying. And then what we do is we do a full health audit. So we actually run through exactly what their diet looks like each day, what their exercise levels look like, and their training program, if they're doing one, what their sleep looks like, their stress, their recovery, all of these metrics, so we can get a really good idea from that. Once we've done that, we then actually build them out the custom protocol. So based on the blood work report that we get, based on the audit that we've done with them, we then build them out, a protocol for their nutrition, their exercise, their recovery, their supplements, based on the goals that they are looking to achieve. And then from that point on, they've got the accountability and support of our team. We've got specialized coaches on our team, as well as a US-based MD that helps with the blood work. So again, they can have access to different types of people depending on what they need. And then from there, we take them on that journey to optimizing their health, whether it be for 6 or 12 months.
Okay. Got it. As far as what you see when you're working with your clients, are there specific areas that you notice that most are challenged in this area? Like being overweight. Okay. Is overweight one of the primary issues that you see, that if you can help the individual lose the weight, then perhaps that will give some positive benefits to helping them to correct some of the other medical challenges that they may have? Is there any specific area that you kind of see more often than others?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say the first one is definitely the weight side of things. So again, being, 20 to 40 pounds over the weight they want to be at. The second one is actually sleep as well. So sleep is one of the biggest things that we focus on with our clients, because a lot of the reasons as to overeating, lack of training, low levels of testosterone, high levels of inflammation are down to a lack of sleep. So again, sleep is also a big thing that our executives come to us with.
Okay. Now, are there any markers that you guys may be able to see that kind of indicate that, an executive is kind of sabotaging their energy, and is there something specific that you can kind of pull from to say, hey, this guy's messing up here in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 4 kind of areas that we focus on. So if you guys are listening, this is a good time to take notes, because these are like the key health markers for executives and entrepreneurs. So bucket 1, we call cardiovascular and metabolic health. So this is looking at things like your blood pressure, your triglyceride to HDL ratio. So this helps, assess insulin resistance. You've then got your blood sugar levels as well. So testing things like your fasting blood glucose, HbA1c as well. Again, this is just important for preventing diabetes. The second one is hormonal and nutritional balance. So this is looking at your testosterone levels, your free and total testosterone, your thyroid function as well, because this regulates your metabolism and energy. We also look at things like your vitamin D, your B vitamins, and omega-3. So these can actually be quite low in stressed executives. So this is crucial for like immune function, energy production, brain health, reducing inflammation. Third bucket is strength and physical fitness. So this isn't actually done through blood work, but we can actually test through something called VO2 max testing. And this is just your cardiorespiratory system. And this is going to help with your overall endurance, but also impact things like your energy, your resilience. There's also muscle strength and flexibility, which we work on body composition, which I just discussed. And then the fourth one is actually sleep quality and stress management. So what this is looking at your cortisol levels, those inflammation levels in the blood as well. And then obviously sleep quality and duration. So actually tracking what that looks like, because that's really important for the cognitive function, emotional regulation, and memory as well. So yeah, that's sort of like the overview of the four
that's
pillars.
Good. That's okay. No, man, that's great. That's great information. I mean, that's really good stuff that you just shared there. I'm just curious, Oliver, what's the recommended amount of sleep that an individual should be getting, whether they're an executive, just, any normal person, I mean, out there that has a regular job?
Yeah. So the standard for most people is 8 hours of sleep per night to try and get.
Okay.
With that, there are a portion of the population, a very small portion, that can operate on 6 hours of sleep. So some people can actually operate on far less, but that's kind of genetically more disposed. Majority of the population are looking around 8 hours of sleep. But when we're looking at sleep, the duration is important, but it's more about that quality of sleep you have, right? So if you're in bed for 8 hours or you think you're sleeping, but you're tossing and turning, you're waking up in the middle of the
Right.
night, it's a very broken sleep. That's very different, right? So we want to look at not just the sleep amount and time, but also the quality. And if any of you guys have tracked sleep through a fitness tracker, like an Aura Ring, a Whoop Band, you can actually see that there's like your light sleep, you've got your deep sleep, and then you've got your REM sleep. So the deep and REM sleep is actually the most important. The deep sleep is where your muscles recover, your body recovers, where you build muscle and that side of things recover. And then you've got your REM sleep, which is called rapid eye movement sleep. And that is where your cognitive function starts to be repaired. REM sleep is basically, when you have those crazy dreams at night and people are chasing you and all those great things are
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
that is your REM sleep, right? So if you're getting lots of dreams at night, that is a really good indicator that you're actually in that deep latter stage of sleep. And then you can obviously wake up and feel good. So yeah, that's a rundown sort of sleep there, if that makes sense.
Okay. So it's not just a specific hours or the specific hours. It's more like the quality of the time that you're actually sleeping, because that's a really good point. Because I think sometimes we don't realize that you might be in bed for 8 hours, but you're not really even touching REM sleep like you should be. So you still kind of wake up and you're tired. Is that like an indicator to say, hey, I mean, why am I tired? I was in bed for 8 hours. I mean, is that kind of like an indicator that the quality of sleep is being challenged?
Yeah. A lot of the time that is. So people will
Okay.
spend a lot of time in like either light sleep or broken sleep, right? They're waking up in the middle of the night and tossing and turning and they've just not recovered properly. So they might be in bed for 8 hours, but they might have only slept for 5 or 6 hours of that actually in that time. So that's why they feel that fatigue, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Well, now I love the fact that you guys do this diagnostic, and that you really put the time in to really, get some more deeper insight into the individual that you're working with, because I think that's extremely important. But I want to go back, Oliver, to something that you talked about at the beginning, which was habits. Is the primary challenge that most executives deal with is developing these habits? Is that really where the issue is? It's not so much the lack of knowledge, or obviously they have the resources to be able to make sure they eat the right types of foods, get the right type of health care and all this other stuff. But is it the challenge for you, is it to kind of help them to get the habits that they need that build sustainable health?
Yeah, a huge part of what we do is the execution side of things, right? So, a lot of guys now, anyone can go on to ChatGPT or Claude and write a fitness
Right.
plan of what to do, right? Anyone can do
Yep.
that. But why,
You're right.
right? But why is it when you go to an airport and you look around and you see, okay, how many people are actually in great physical shape?
Yep.
Maybe 1 in 100, right? If you're lucky, maybe
Yep.
more, a little bit more than that. The reality shows that people are still not able to ingrain these habits, and specifically for executives, it's difficult. And I can empathize as well, because a lot of the reasons executives fall off is because of things like travel and the spontaneous trips that happen, right? That's a big
Mhm.
thing to navigate. It's like, okay, I'm in a hotel this week, I've got client dinners, I'm at a conference. How do I navigate that? And that's where having a system and a plan is very important, because otherwise, if you don't, you're going to have bar food, you're going to have the chips, you're going to be drinking tons of alcohol, you're not going to work out in the morning, you're going to get the breakfast buffet wrong, right? And this all leads to lethargy. You add this to the stress, you add this to the jet lag, you then come back off travel overweight, feeling less energized, and you're back in a worse place. So again, what we help do is help them navigate that piece of things, because that's where most
Okay.
executives struggle, is the travel side of things. When they're at home, they can build that routine and they feel that things are good, but it's when life is chaotic that
Right.
they find that it's difficult.
Right. Right. No, that's a good point. And I say that because, one of the things that I talk to people about when it comes to trying to help them or encourage them about, working, towards better health is obviously, the importance of habit forming, developing these habits that can that can be with you, and help sustain this new way of living. But we had a we had some we had, and I think I told you this earlier when we were talking about, we had some bad weather here here in the South, and normally for me, for the last 3 or 4 years, I go to the gym like 6 days a week. I get there, about 4:30 or so, and it's just like automatic. I mean, even if I woke up and didn't want to go to the gym, I still wake up that time. It's nothing else to do, so I just go to the gym. But the gym was closed like for a couple of days, right? Because I couldn't get there. So now there was this deviation in my schedule. And I'm used to getting up. And I'm like, oh man, what do I do now? I can't get to the gym. So one of the things I realize is always finding ways to try and have a plan B or compromise without getting rid of the exercise or not doing it. So in other words, I got up, came in my office, cleared out my floor, and I worked out in my office, and I did push-ups and some other things that I could do, with the chair and some other things like that. But I still was able to get the exercise in without having to omit doing the exercise just because the outside conditions changed. So is that kind of what you guys do with these executives to say, hey, you have to be flexible, but don't stop doing it, in other words?
Exactly. No, man, you're doing all the right thing there. It's a good, this is a good example to our clients to actually share what you're doing. It's right. It's like, most executives, they live by their calendar, they live by routine, they live by their structure. And sometimes when things get thrown off, they think, oh no, it's not the structure I want. I'm going to, skip this today. Well,
right.
You can actually find a solution to that. There are home workouts you can do. We also say to our clients to get a pair of Bowflex dumbbells and a small bench and put it in your garage that you can have at home. So if there is, you're not able to get to the gym, there is a storm, like you said, you can knock out a weights workout at home and just get that done. So there are tons of ways around it. There are walking pads that you can get under your desk to ensure you get enough steps in during the day while you're taking meetings. There are tons of ways around it. But it is something that you do have to prioritize. And I always say this to people is, you do have to say to yourself, I'm committed to doing this. And if things do fall apart with my normal routine, having that plan B and that adaptability to continue to do it. Because with habits, we find that as we continue to do them, it compounds and things get easier and we're able to stick to the system. But if we fall off for 1-2 weeks, work gets busy, we can completely fall off, right? We can gain 10 pounds. And that's when we lose the motivation to want to do things because we've lost that momentum that we had. So again, having adaptability allows us to continue to do the work, to continue to build the momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point, man. That's good stuff. So listen, I'm really curious about this. So you work with these guys that are always busy, right? And so a lot of them are, millionaires, billionaires that you're working with, right? So they got a million things they got to do. They got stuff going on. How do you actually like convince them, when you're talking to them, right? Say you're trying to pitch them about coming and doing one of your programs or something like that, right? And they tell you, man, I ain't got time for this. And obviously, I'm sure what he's saying is probably true. I mean, he's limited in time. But what happens, or what do you say to him in response to that if he comes back and say, hey, man, I just don't have time. I like what you're doing, but I just don't have time?
Yeah, I mean, if someone came to us and said that, I would show them the 500 plus executives that were in the same position as him that actually got the results. So they'd say, well, that's a fair point, but what do you think these guys that have got the results are doing differently to you? And I'd put it back on him. And they'd be smart enough to be able to answer that, I hope.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, so these other 500 guys didn't say the same thing. So, no, that's good, man. Just go back and talk to them about the success that you've already had with these other folks. So I get it. No, that's a great way to respond. So I know that you have limitations on the amount of clients that you see, but tell us, like, at this stage of the game for you, because you have access to some very large organizations, you have a large Rolodex, I'm sure, or a lot of people that you know. How many clients are you seeing now per month, and what would be your ideal client?
Yeah,
if you
great
needed
question.
to onboard someone?
Yeah, so right now we've got about 100 clients right now that we're coaching in our business. So it's a decent amount of clients that we're having right now, but we do limit it just because of the access to the coach. So everybody that comes onto the program gets their designated coach. They're going to get access to the US-based MD and health concierge that we have on our team. They also get direct access to me as well at some point. So again, they're going to get that one-on-one service, so we don't try and take on too many. Now, we are at the point where we're starting to scale our client base as we're growing. So our way to deal with that is to just train and bring on more specialized coaches to help deal with the demand. So, as the client base grows, we're not going to, give more coaches to a very overloaded client. We're going to hire more people that are actually going to be able to handle the demand and actually give the client the full level of service that they deserve. So yeah, that's a big one. Ideal client, I would say that any, executive that's running a company, US based, 40 to 65 years old, that's looking to drop anywhere from sort of 20 pounds plus, but also improve internal health, energy levels, and daily habits, right? If you fit in that category, then you'd be a good candidate for our program. You've probably got a family, you've got kids, you travel, whether that's once a month or a couple of times a week for business, and you've tried a lot of the mainstream stuff that's out there. You've got a PT, right, that hasn't really worked because you travel and then they don't help you with the nutrition side. You've tried the 75 hard and these extreme ways of doing things like keto. You've bounced up and down on things because you've not found something sustainable. Like, if that's you, then you're the perfect candidate for us, because we don't sell 6-week quick fixes or these 7-day challenges, right? We're about long-term success and sustainability with what we offer.
I got you. No, that's good. I mean, I think that for most folks that have tried, because we talked about this earlier, if you've tried the fad diets, you've tried all this other stuff, and it just hasn't worked, and things are getting worse as opposed to getting better. I mean, the coaching program, it sounds like you have, because it's very detailed, it's specific, it's customized to that individual. I think it's really great program, especially for people who are looking for things that can help them, to have a detailed plan that they can work by, and then have the accountability piece in place as well. I think it's really great. Now, is there ways that folks can reach out to you, Oliver? Maybe tell us, they get to a website or what? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find my website, which is nice and easy, fitnessforentrepreneurs.com. So if you just do a Google search, you'll find that. You can also find me on LinkedIn. So if you just search Oliver Anwar on LinkedIn, you'll find me. I'm very active on there. I'm also very active on X, formerly Twitter, and you just search Oliver Anwar on there and you'll find me. And those are my main channels. We're also on YouTube as well and putting out YouTube content too. So if you just search my name, you'll be able to find me on there too. So yeah, those are the main ways that you can find me and contact me.
Okay. Now, before we close out, I always like to end the show with the guest perhaps maybe taking a moment just to, leave us with some parting words of wisdom. Now, we've been talking a lot about high-performing executives and folks that are in high-demanding roles, but for, everyday folks who may just have a regular job, but they're still suffering from their, from health challenges. They want to get better. They just don't really know how. Maybe leave us with some parting gifts today. Some words of wisdom.
Yeah. So if you're someone that's struggling with your health, the first thing that I would say is that it's about consistency. If you want to achieve success with health, it's consistency. Don't try and go into an extreme plan. Don't try and cut your calories really low. Be in the gym for 2 hours a day. Burn yourself out, because that's going to make you feel worse, right? You're going to end up giving up within the first few weeks. Start with a low-hanging fruit. And the way we do this with our clients is, each week we introduce something. So let's say today we're starting week 1. Let's just start, we're going for a 30-minute walk each day and start doing that and getting outside and burning some calories. You can do it after your meals as well, because that's good. And that's really easy to do. And it's really low effort. Once you've built that, start week 2 with introducing protein into your diet. Each meal, try and get enough protein, right? This can be a protein shake, it can be eggs, it can be chicken, it can be fish, whatever you fancy. Just try and prioritize that for week 2. For week 3, right, let's introduce a couple of workouts, right? Let's try and, get to the gym a couple of days a week if you can, or if you can do your body weight workouts at home, let's introduce that. And then just slowly stack these habits. By week 4, let's have a look at our sleep quality. Let's maybe try and sleep, at the same time each night and wake up consistently. Now, in the space of a month, you've then added 4 things in there, which is the foundations to health. And I guarantee you, after a month, you probably would have lost weight. You're going to feel better.
Yep.
You've got more energy. You feel good, right? But it's not
Yep.
about doing anything extreme. It's the basics done right and slowly letting those habits compound. So that would be my advice to people doing it. And just finally, to take the ownership of it, right? Like, I think this is so important, is the health, I know people that have health issues and health scares. It's always on you to take ownership for that, right? Take the personal responsibility you need It doesn't have to be extreme, but know that it's on you to do that. And once you achieve that, what that also does is it says to yourself as a person, I can go out and achieve this. And one of my favorite quotes is lifting weights and being into looking after your health is the gateway drug to self-improvement, because it's so true, right? Once you look after your health, and once you get that, it gives you this momentum to then say, hey, I deserve to work a better job. I deserve to be in a better relationship. It shows proof and evidence that then you can continue to build habits and build success elsewhere. So yeah, that would be my part in words of wisdom.
Man, good stuff, brother. Good stuff. I tell you, Oliver, man, you've been a really great guest, man, and you've really added tremendous value to our audience today, and
Thanks, man.
and providing such rich content and information that I think is going to really help change people's lives. So I really appreciate you taking time to come on, man. It's been really cool hanging out with you. I wish I was where you was at, in warm weather, hanging out. But yeah, man. So I mean, it's really great conversation, man. So thanks again for coming on the Well to Lead podcast and sharing with our folks. And folks, that's all we have today. We've run out of time. I would love to have Oliver maybe to come back if we can make it happen for part 2 at some point. But
For sure.
so I really appreciate it, man. And until next week, folks, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks again. And you guys take care and have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh, man.